This is an outrageous fragrance review, but it's probably one of the most normal reviews in this entire video. I bought 5 new men's designer fragrances and we're about to put them to the test because they all have one thing in common. Ruthless 1-star fragrance reviews, and they get worse as the video goes on, so let's see if it's fact or cap. Review number 1, Hugo Boss The Scent, the Elixir Edition. Scary44 said this literally smells like vomit, sprayed it once and almost threw up. Ugh. This must smell terrible. While Mathis said it's too expensive and doesn't smell good. But is any of this true? Here's the test. 1, determine if it smells like vomit. And then 2, determine if this is more expensive compared to other Boss bottled fragrances. Honestly, Scary, I can't agree with you on this one. To me, I get a rich, spicy fragrance that just screams wear me. Typically, Hugo Boss does a great job with their fragrances, and to me, this one's no different. Yes, it's spicier than I would have imagined, but to me, it's not really a bad thing. Now for the price. Hugo Boss The Scent Elixir has a retail value of $168, and that's a little more expensive than you would traditionally imagine with Hugo Boss fragrances, but it's an elixir, so to me, it's par for the course. There's 2 ways to look at the price, especially when it comes to Hugo Boss fragrances. The retailer price and the discounter price. And depending on where you pick up your Hugo Boss fragrances, that could greatly change the way you view the pricing of a Hugo Boss fragrance. So I'd say that Matthias is correct, but for the average person, the pricing makes sense. Honestly, Hugo Boss, I'm impressed, and on first spray, I would give this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. By the way, every fragrance we discuss today will be competing for the grand prize. Whichever fragrance gets the highest rating will have the luxury of coming home to one of you, because I'm going to personally buy one of you the highest rated fragrance. So good job, Hugo Boss. You're number 1 for now. So with that, things are getting a little spicy. You see what I did there? Our second fragrance comes from Ralph Lauren, and this one is Polo 67. The lazy couponer said, this gives me an immediate headache. Very strong. Definitely not something I want my husband wearing. It's too bad. I understand this is an expensive fragrance, but it's definitely missed the mark. That's a tough one. Mind you, the lazy couponer didn't pay anything for this fragrance, so the hate is real. So with the review, here's our test. Spray and see if I get an immediate headache. Determine if it's too strong. See if my wife would enjoy this on me, and if this fragrance is too expensive compared to other new releases. Seems simple enough. So clearly I just sprayed this fragrance and I don't have an immediate headache, so that one doesn't check out. So far, I don't find Polo 67 to be too strong. In fact, a lot of people complain about Polo fragrances not having enough strength. So for me, this one's pretty good. The missus stepped out, so I had to call her up here for a little razzle dazzle. In the meantime, while she's coming up, I think this is a really good fragrance. It smells nice. I would wear this casually. Probably a good one for spring and or summer. And it's like super crowd pleasing. So this one would work in almost any environment that you could rock a bright, fresh fragrance. Polo 67 barely crosses the $100 mark for 125 ml, so I don't find this one to be outrageously priced. So the missus said that this one's clean, rich, and masculine, so for the lazy couponer, this one's debunked. Also, another job well done. Polo, you get a 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on to our third fragrance, and no, it's not a joke. We have Givenchy Society Extreme. This is yet again another 2024 release, and it's gotten its share of mixed reviews. Patricia M606F said, the Givenchy Society EDP Extreme is intense. One spray is enough if you are sensitive to smells. It is best described as woody and spicy when it finishes drying down. Perhaps the non-extreme version would have been easier on the nose. To be honest, I'm not sure what about that equates out to a 1-star review, but here's the test. We're gonna check the intensity, determine if one spray is truly enough, and then for giggles, I'll spray this one to see how good it smells. I've been sitting on this fragrance for a while as I purchased it on March 4th, And at the time of filming this video, I've already had it for 2 months, so let's get this testing underway. It's interesting. Now, when compared to the original Givenchy Society, this one is more intense, but it's not as intense as the original Unwashed Reflection Man, Black Iris, but the intense is what you want it to be with the name like Extreme. That said, 99% of fragrances that I have in my collection will get more than one spray from me, so one spritz just won't cut it. And honestly, I think this one smells okay. It's not great, but it's also not horrible worth a 1-star review, at least at this point. So for me, this one also gets a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's dark, it's rich, and it also has this like great blend of notes here. Probably some coffee. It almost smells like a peppermint that you put in your mouth, like a mint, like the actual red and white peppermints. So overall, it's a good fragrance. I'm digging it, but not great, not horrible. 3.5 out of 5 stars. Our fourth fragrance is Prada Luna Rossa Ocean La Parfum. And I gotta be honest, out of the fragrances we smelled so far, this one has the best packaging. Our fourth review comes from Chari Bunny, and she states, I was generously gifted this men's fragrance from Influencer and Prada in exchange for my honest review. And Influencer is like a company that allows you to get fragrances and other things for free. So check that out if you haven't. That's a good way to get into the game. And that's how a lot of these companies get early reviews on sites like Macy's, Sephora, etc. But I'll continue. She also says, unfortunately, all of the men in my household hated it. It's a very sweet fragrance and in my opinion, not super masculine. It is strong and long lasting because we sprayed it on a tiny sample in our home to test and the scent lingered for hours. I'm not necessarily sure that's a bad thing, but I'll continue on. We do not pick up the lemon essence at all in this, as it's not a fresh scent, but rather a sweet and musky woody. I'm assuming like a woody fragrance. If you like that, you'll like this. On a high note, the bottle is refillable and looking good on the vanity. All right, so I think that's solid. I think the bottle's probably going to look as good as the presentation, but there's a few more things. Now, I'm going to venture to say that Chari Bunny knows a thing or two about fragrance because she called out all of the good things in this fragrance that matters to a fragrance connoisseur, but I thought overall that the feedback was almost positive, unless the fragrance just sucked that bad. We're about to crack this thing open, but before I do, let me just check my checklist on what we're testing here. 1, we gotta see if the boo thing likes it. See if the other men in the household like this fragrance. I'll call my sons in to see. Determine if this fragrance is very sweet, and then to also determine if it's masculine. Then we'll need to know if this is a strong, long-lasting fragrance, and then can I pick up on the lemon essence, and is it woody? And there's a lot to test, so let's get down to business. I'm a sucker for red. So far, I don't determine this one to be very sweet. In fact, I would say it's not sweet at all. So against the review, I had 2 other men in the household smell it, and they both thought it was nice. He said, how can you go wrong with little old Prada? Next task, see what the boo thing thinks. So the missus said it smells good, but it also smells like it's on the cheaper side. And they did call out that this fragrance could be expensive. And I think it's a whole mix of things going on in this fragrance that could provide that cheap smelling feel. Now, in smelling this fragrance, I wouldn't say that it smells super masculine, but it also doesn't smell feminine. It comes off as a fragrance that could be a great unisex scent, and that's primarily driven by this powder feel that I'm getting off of the overall composition. In terms of its longevity, I'm not sure how long this fragrance would last. I'll spray it on skin, and then write it down in the comments, because for the sake of this video, it's gonna take too long for me to tell you if it's really a long-lasting fragrance. But what I get with a lot of the Prada Luna Rossa fragrances is that they come off as long-lasting scents. I feel like I get my money's worth out of them, and I feel like that's probably gonna be the same with this one. This also has this thickness that comes along with the scent, so I think it'll last. Now, I don't get much of the lemon essence. It's there, but very minute. So I could see why they would say, hey, it doesn't smell like lemon essence. It's like there, but in the backbone of this fragrance. But what I do get more of is that woody nature and nuance to this fragrance. So I'm gonna say that this one is woody, but overall, the review doesn't check out. And on first spray, this one gets a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So let's take a pause for today's video sponsors, my friends over at Max Aroma. With Max Aroma, it's not just about the savings, it's about the experience. Their 100% customer satisfaction guarantee ensures that you will have a stress-free shopping experience. And to me, that's super important, especially when you're ordering fragrances online. Speaking of which, while shopping this site, you have the opportunity to shop from classics, new fragrances, or those niche, hard to find fragrances as well. If you're looking for the perfect place to get the fragrances you need at the prices you want, then Max Aroma is the perfect place to do just that. So go ahead, click the button, and unleash your inner confidence this summer with the power of fragrance. As you elevate your fragrance collection, build up your stars and points for those extra additional savings, and sign up to be a part of the Aroma Club for early access to extra steals and deals. Again, head over to maxaroma.com to elevate your fragrance game. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. The next fragrance got absolutely blasted with 1-star reviews. Like really, there's a lot, but there's one that stands out much more than the others. But you might be wondering which fragrance got all of these 1-star reviews. And it's none other than Margiela's Under the Stars. This is said to have oud essence, a raw leather accord, as well as a black pepper essence, and people hate it. Platinum Ambitious said, as soon as I sprayed this, it literally reminded me of a damp building. My male partner also tried this and immediately gagged. This was not appealing to me, and the aroma lingered way too long. Just awful. I would not pay any amount of money for this. Yikes. But the wildest review came from Mayor, and they said it's suffocating and vile. Let me dig deeper. They went on to say, I wanted to love this. I really did. One small spray of this was enough to send me into a migraine within minutes. It's entirely too strong. Imagine being on a tube in London surrounded by bros heading to the club. That's a lot of imagery there. That god-awful, sharp and suffocating smell of their cheap cologne permeating every square inch. I had to take off the sweatshirt I was wearing and scrub the skin of my chest in a futile effort to remove it. I let the sweatshirt sit in the laundry for over a month. That's a long time. Recently, came back to wash it and the smell was still there. Just as noxious and offensive as the day I sprayed it. I normally enjoy Replica fragrances, but this was a big mess. That is a rough review, man. Hopefully they were overdoing it, but this one got a lot of bad reviews, so they might be onto something. Let's crack it open and see. So here's the test. Does it cause a migraine in minutes? Is it too strong? Is it difficult to remove? And finally, is it offensive? Okay, I can smell it already. Okay, I don't want to be swayed by the review. But this is not going to be appealing to most people, and the reviews does show that. Listen, if you are wearing this fragrance or if you are purchasing this fragrance, then knowing that it has oud and leather, then you should know that this fragrance is not going to be the run of the mill. It's not fresh, it's not inviting, this one is dark. This one is a bad boy fragrance, and I feel like there's a space for it, but to the point of the review, let's spray it on skin. That's gonna be the best way to determine if it's too strong. Okay. When I think of Margiela replica fragrances, they're supposed to replicate a point in time. And this one is supposed to be Namibia 2022, and it's oud and leather as the main notes. And it's said to be under the stars, so if you're South Africa on a safari, then you might smell something like this. I don't know, I've never been to Africa on a safari. So is this too strong? I would say depending on how many sprays you do, I could see that many people might find this one to be too strong because it's not a crowd-pleasing scent. Is it difficult to move? I would say there's probably some truth to that, but if you know the hacks like I know, then probably not. Is Under the Stars offensive? I'm going to say that this one could be offensive. That oud there, that leather, it's pungent, it's dark, it's not your typical fragrance. It's not one that you're gonna wear to blend in. This is definitely one that you're gonna wear to stand out. And it's been at least 3 minutes since I've had this one on my skin. It's probably a lot longer than that, but I don't have a headache on this one yet, so I'm gonna say that that portion of it's debunked. Now, after digging deep into this fragrance, I'm gonna say that this one does check out. Most of the things that were placed there in terms of the smell and longevity, all those things, I would say check out on this fragrance. So I'm gonna say that review is legit. However, I'm gonna raise the stars on this one to 2.5 stars. So after testing each of these fragrances that got 1-star reviews, it taught me that we probably need to be more positive in the world. Starting with declaring Polo 67 as our champ and the fragrance that one of you will take home. Just drop me a positive word in the comment section and I'll randomly select one of you to win. But in the meantime, click here to see what happened when I tried 5-star clone fragrances from Dua.